guys, this is Wenzes from Below the Radar Above the System, and now I want to talk to you about the instinctual variants within the Enneagram. There have been comments on the videos on the one hand that some of them are becoming or are too technical, and that people enjoy talking about those things that really how to use your energy, what to do, and so on. But what I'm actually trying to do is, if I talk about specifics, like I'm going to talk about the instinctual variance here, it always has a purpose. I'm not the one who's gonna tell you this is how socionic works or Enneagram and so on. They're great books on this. I'm here to give you my input about my experience, because this is all I can actually talk about, and what has helped me using those instruments. So the last time I had a video about INFJ's Enneagram 9, and I said if you want me to talk about another Enneagram type, just comment below, and the ones with the most likes I'm gonna do next. This was last week, so if you really have some kind of interest in an Enneagram type, go look it up there. If your type or the type you want to talk about has been mentioned before, if not, comment. Otherwise, like an already existing one. I'm still trying to get more people into this, so I have a better overview what is really requested. So now I'm going to talk about the instinctual variants in Enneagram. There are three ones. They're social, sexual, and self-preservation. And it does not really matter what kind of Enneagram type you are. It does not really matter what kind of personality type you are, Myers-Briggs type, or whatever, what kind of dichotomies, all those things that sound so scientific or whatever, they don't really matter. The main point about this is that we have this understanding of this is how we see the world, and we assume that other people want the same things and go about life the same direction, and then we don't understand how people are coming from a different point of view, and we don't really do what we think is right, because we think, oh, everybody else wants the same things and they're not doing it, so there must be something wrong. And there was this quote by Mark Twain, and he said, it's not that you get in trouble because of the things you don't know, it's the things you know for sure that just aren't so. And see, it's like this. Let's say you have there's a fight between two people, or two, I don't know, just two individuals, and the one can really push the other one in the water, for example, and you're wondering why that one person that can be pushed doesn't really care. They doesn't really care, and this makes the person who can push that one really uncomfortable, because they don't know what to do, and sometimes they get pushed to such a point that they push that person into the water. This, of course, metaphorically speaking. And just then they realize that the person they pushed down actually doesn't need to breathe. They have some kind of other ways to go about life, or something that is keeping them alive. And so you assumed at that point, if you're the one pushing that person, or if you're in a fight or whatever it is, that the other person needs breath to survive. And this is something so essential that you don't really think about, how can this be something that is so important to me and is not important to others. And this is where those variants come into play. So let me first explain all three of them. So the first one is, let's start with the self-preservation instinct. This is an instinct, if this is your main one, if this is your base, then you're very grounded. It's important that you're financially stable, that you're stable within your mental sphere, so you don't really want to go into different scenarios, how the world could be, change your your thinking pattern and so on. So a lot of people with internal who have sensing functions in the beginning, or who have an internal judging function, so on, there's no real like only I don't know, ISTJs can be self-preservating, or that an INFJ can never be self-preservation basic, or the main, having that as a main instinctual variant. But just imagine it as somebody who really needs like to have that stability of, I know this is how life is going to be, as in this is how I see the world, this is where I am, I need to be safe, and so on. This has a lot to do with being grounded. And then there's the sexual variant. The sexual variant is a lot about needing action or needing stimulation, needing something to be exciting and not non-conformative, and having some kind of rebellish thing about you. And this can be, if you're you can see it as, I don't know, somebody who goes out and does a bunch of stuff, like just a stereotypical thing, like you see Madonna, somebody who's like really provoking. But you also see it with people who don't really want to conform to a certain lifestyle, who don't want to conform to a certain way of thinking, how everybody else does it. This is like a main, if you have sexual as your main or your base instinctual variant, it also has to do a lot with intimacy. So you want to get to know the other person. This is because the closer you get to somebody else, the more dangerous it gets when it comes to your mindset. It can change things. There's always some kind of tension there. And intimacy is not only one-to-one, but for example, all those things we talk about here, they do kind of go more into those deep things, and just kind of like really, they can shake your system. So I'm, for example, with a sexual variant basis. I think I have to look it up how it's called when it's like on the first place, your most important one. But I think you understand what I'm talking about and what I mean. So the third one is social variant, and social variant is a lot about feeling part of a group. Feeling a part of society, feeling a part of your friends group, and just having some kind of like, you care how other people view you, and that you're part of something, of a community. This is how you have your there's a sense of self that comes with that, with what kind of role you play in your group. And it's a lot about having like this, this area of, this is what I'm doing for the group, this is how I belong to the group, and there's a lot of image consciousness in this. And so these are the three variants. So you have sexual, self-preservating, and social. And mainly it's like this: you have one main one, then you have one that you kind of use to get the first one, and that is also important to you, just not as important. And then the third one you mainly neglect. This is how the system is built, and how it's defined. So, and this is, for example, one point that I didn't understand for a long time, how this can be so different for different people. See, for me, I have, as I said, I have the sexual as a first, and I have this social as second. So I realized with time, yes, it is important to me that I do add value to society, that I do add value to the group I'm in, because I cannot live completely alone and not care about having some kind of connection with people. And through what I'm contributing to my group, as in my friends, my work, my INFJ friends, whatever, through that I'm able to kind of live out my first instinct, which is sexual, which is meaning I need to do stuff that is not conformative. I need to just kind of see how far I can take it, where my limits are, and so on and so forth. And I met somebody who was a social variant first and a sexual second. And the biggest tension was there, that we both didn't understand that the other person values the other thing more. And sometimes we don't want to make it a point. Like you think, oh, okay, I can not make it a point that I'm more about the sexual variant than you are, because that's gonna make you feel weak. not understanding that the other person doesn't value that as much as you do. What they value is that social one, that they're, part of the group, and then there are things that they would never ever do because it will take them out of that group. They wouldn't act in a way that is completely not really acceptable by society, or is not like, it would throw people off. And on the other hand, I, for example, couldn't forsake being mentally like open and wanting to go places and needing my independence in that kind of way that I could do whatever I want and not conform and not be controlled in a way of this is how it's supposed to be. And I had to learn that about myself. Like, I needed to learn that what is most important to me, and that the second one I can use to kind of just give me a more space to do my first one, because I have this security about, okay, I'm doing something within the group. I have like my place, what I'm doing, but I have a stability within the second one, so I can go off and explore my first one. And it's it's like this with each combination. I personally don't really care about self-preservation. Like, I've changed my mindset. I've changed the things I care about. I changed, like, there's so much change going on internally that maybe most people wouldn't see, but that's what the self-preservation is all about, that you kind of stick to your system and what you've learned and what works and so on. So have that in mind when you interact with other people, that there is something that might be so important to you and that you assume and you project that other people want the same thing, and they don't. They really don't. Every person is so different, and the more I grow, the more I kind of like integrate parts that I have been projecting, and the more I become like a real individual apart from like everything, just like really feeling this is me, the more I realize how different we are and how often we assume that people act a certain way because they cannot have something else, or because whatever it is. Like, there's something we have to understand, and it can be very painful to really get that realization, because for me it was very, very difficult to understand and to admit to others that sexual variety is more important to me than the social one. Because, for example, I always had the feeling, if you want to be loved or, just admired or get affection as a woman, I would have to kind of just step down, not really do my thing, but kind of just give other people the opportunity to do their things. Those kind of argumentations, or I was telling myself that nobody actually did this to me, or told me you have to act like this because of this. This is my interpretation due to some kind of issues I had as a child, or how my relationship was with my father, or so on. And it doesn't really matter at some point, because we're adults now, and now it's about doing what is right for us and for the people around us, taking control of our lives. But it was a very, very difficult moment for me to kind of start acting outwardly, that I made it a point, listen, I'm more like this. I'm more about, doing crazy stuff and then trying out new things and seeing how far I can take it and doing something good with that, than to be part of the group and being accepted as part of the group. I thought I could have both, but at the point where you really have to decide, and you're like really at a crossroad, you kind of really know that this is you. And once you really realize that, it hurts at first, because it means that you have to understand that you can't really have your second one always. People are not always, you might be important to you, but then you have to admit to yourself that the first one is more important to you. And I've seen people who have, as I said, social first and sexual second, for example, who really wanted to be perceived as, fighters and just kind of like nonconformist and going out and always like wanting, just to prove themselves in that way, that once they got to a crossroad where we got into an altercation or an argument where they saw that actually for me it's really more important to kind of do my own thing, they also had to admit to themselves, no, I really need my people around me. I'm part of a group. I love people. This is who I am, and this is more important to me than, you know, going out of my way and acting a certain way. It's not even a decision really. It's more of a, what are you gonna do? Like, do you really care more about being accepted to a certain degree, or is it more important to you knowing that you're not going to be accepted, but you need to like go out and just do something because it just suffocates your mind? So I think for INFJs, it's very often social and sexual, and you know, it changes. Like, I don't think there's like something as it's set. It's always like this. Self-preservation, it's the same thing, but understand which is your first and act towards that. Like, make it a point to let people know in a general way the first one is more important to you. And don't be scared to do that, because this is who you really are. And if you think like, oh, I'm that one, and you go in that direction, you keep doing that and it's just not doing you any good, then you know you have to change something. Yeah, so this is the one on instinctual variance. I think I've talked about it in one of the previous videos, like a half a year ago or something, but it was it's important to me, and it was something that's been on my mind lately. And since we're getting more into Enneagrams, and I had somebody specifically asking for this, I decided to do a video on this. So talk to you soon. Hope that helped. Comment, subscribe, and yeah, if you have any requests, share them in the idea pool or below here. You can write me messages. People, like, I see how people keep on writing me, and it's a really good thing, because I really see, okay, this is something that can be beneficial for all of us, and I share it. So yeah, just interact. We're all a group. We're all here to you know, contribute or consume, but actually to just kind of like help each other to get to a better place. So talk to you soon. Bye.